Well, shall we begin? Let's do it. Good morning, everybody. Morning. All right, today we're in the middle of trigonometry, specifically in the middle of the non-right triangle things we can do. I was about to say ratios, but I guess they're not really. Well, law of sines is a set of ratios, actually, isn't it? Yeah, that still works. So we have the right triangle trig ratios, or functions. We'll get to graphing them as a function towards the end. But law of sines was itself a new set of ratios that now applies to non-right triangles. And before we get to the problem for today, I must apologize to you guys. I screwed it up last week. I told you you could start by checking, hey, if A is less than B, it's always no solution. That is not true. Okay? I still recommend checking that first. Okay? But that was only for the obtuse one. Okay? I looked at this chart in too much haste, and I gave you some bad advice. I tried to apply more shortcuts than are actually applicable. Okay? Only if it's obtuse and A is less than B. That is to say, the side that's supposed to be across from the angle you're given. Okay? If it's an obtuse angle, you know this from triangle inequalities, right? If that's an obtuse angle, you can only fit one obtuse angle in the triangle, right? Which means it necessarily must be the biggest angle in the triangle, right? Which means the side across from it must necessarily be the biggest side. Am I right? So if you already know that side is smaller than something else, it just failed, didn't it? Like, wait a minute, this has to be bigger, right? Because this is big. That's the only catch. So do check that first. But I need to add a caveat here, right? Check A is less than B and angle A is greater than 90 degrees, right? You have to have both of those things are true for it to immediately have no solution. Then we'll check this one. Again, go with the easy stuff first. Okay, what about A greater than B? If A is the biggest one. Okay, let's double check that. If A is definitely bigger than B, we have exactly one solution either way. Okay? And I tried to say, hey, this shortcut works on both sides. The other shortcut does not work on both sides. I didn't read all the way. Right? This is A less than B sine A, not just less than B. Okay? So check for the obtuse no solution first, because that's easy to spot. Check for the definitely only one solution next, because that's a little bit easier to spot. And then the last three possibilities are based on how does A compare to B sine A? And for that, you got to do a little bit of computing, right? You got to find B sine A and compare the numbers. Right? So step 3 requires the calculation. I tried to reduce it down to just 2 options. Actually, all 3 of these get thrown in the find the B sine A portion. I hope that didn't throw you guys off too much. All right? I hope nobody tested one and then threw out a triangle and said, oh, there's no solution. It doesn't, it's like, wait, there could have been one. We don't know yet. Need to do more testing, okay? Because this guy right here, the double option, is A is less than B. I know they wrote it backwards from how the B is greater than A. So A is less than B. But as long as A is still bigger than B sine A, you can still make 2 triangles. So that's like the danger zone, and what I told you might have thrown you off there. You might have thrown that out entirely, the 2 solutions, in thinking it was a no solution. I deeply apologize for that. Tried to go too fast. It's a very convenient tool, law of sines, but you can't shortcut too far. That's the takeaway here, okay? So, do you guys have any questions about law of sines themselves at this point? You want to see how you did on the worksheet? Let's pull up the answers there. Here you guys go. Let's get it on video. Here we are. Now, the other task that they throw in here in the book is the finding the area bit. And that's actually fairly straightforward, right? Because what they're doing is they're making use of right triangle ratio sine to find the height, right? They are drawing in an altitude here and now dividing that and saying, hey, this is now part of a right triangle that has a hypotenuse and a leg and an angle, and I can use sine to find that. And now that's a height perpendicular to another side. I can find the area. Right? I didn't have you guys do that bit. It's a neat trick. Okay? So keep that in the back of your mind. Now that you have law of sines, it is possible to find the area of any triangle without necessarily knowing its perpendicular height off the bat. You can calculate a perpendicular height using this. But to me, it's not the focus. I want you to practice on just using law of sines to solve the triangle. This is a parlor trick. Okay? This is the meat of the stuff. Okay. Questions on that first page? No? And let's go to the second page, which I think was just those three down there, right? Their example was ginormous. I wish they showed the work here. A is acute. So yes, A is already less than B, but that's not enough to tell me it's no solution. I do need to check B sine A. So sine of 24 times 8. How does that compare to 3? Yes, it is still too small. Which, I don't know about you. Question. Number one? Sure. Let's see. Let me pull up some space on my iPad here. Okay, that guy said we had A equals 50 degrees. Little a is 34, and little b is 40. All right, let's start with classification. The angle given is acute. All right, so that right there, that's part one. Is it automatically a no solution? No, it's not one of those easy ones. Okay, how about, is it automatically a one solution? Is A greater than B? No. So it's not automatically a one solution, which means our only options left are, it is either the special case no solution where A is still too small, or it's going to be a two solution, right? Which means we need to calculate what is B times sine A. So we'll take 40 times the sine of 50 degrees. And make sure your calculator is in degree mode and run that. I don't know sine of 50 degrees off the top of my head. Right? I could work out 30, 45, or 60. It's not one of those, so it's not even one of the special cases. So literally grab your calculator. Okay? Unit circle is not going to help you here. So let's, where's my calculator shortcut? Oh, there you are. And am I in degree mode? I believe I changed it last time. Sine 30 gives me 1/2. Check. Golden. All right, so 40 times. Thank you, Coinbase. I needed that. You know, I specifically avoided opening the mode menu because that's what happened last time. When I opened that, that's when the ad popped up. Oh, you just can't win, can you? All right, 40 times sine of, what was it, 50 degrees? Yeah? Okay, the convenient thing about the trig functions is that your TI-84 don't need no multiplication button there. Okay? Don't waste button presses. 40 sine 50. Done. Don't even bother closing the parenthesis. If you have nothing left to type, you're done. And we get 30.641. Yes, is that what you guys got? 30.641. Okay, write that down. This equals 30.641. So that's the cutoff. How does A compare to that? Guys? Bigger, right? Okay, so we know A is greater than B sine A, which means we have how many solutions? 2. How do we find them? Very carefully, right? That's one way to put it. Well, we can easily get one solution just by just regular law of sines. Just set it up as you normally would. Sine of 50 degrees over 34 equals sine of B over 40, right? This will get us that one at least. And so we got to solve for B, so we'll multiply both sides by 40. Right, get rid of that. And so B is sine inverse of sine 50 degrees over, oops. Need to save room for the times 40. Times 40 divided by 34. Yeah? Okay, calculator, give me an answer. 40 sine 50, 34. Okay. Sine inverse of 40 over 34 times sine 50. Right? I like doing it in this order. Put the fraction first, then the sign. That way you don't accidentally put one of these things inside the parentheses of sine. Okay? Technically, we should properly close it with 2 parentheses. Again, we don't actually need those. And we get one of our answers is 64.32. Okay, so answer 1, B equals 64.32 degrees. And then we could work out from there. So that's a triangle sum, find angle C and side C. Straight law of sines from there, right? That's one option. How do we find the other option? Well, let's take a look at our positions here. What do you notice is different about these two types of triangles? They are different classifications, right? This is an obtuse triangle. This is an acute triangle, right? This angle here, angle B, is either acute or obtuse, which means we need an obtuse angle for B that would also give the same, that has the same sign, right? So our unit circle tells us whatever angle B is here, right, it has this height. So we go straight across to find this angle here that has the same height. And that is, call it B prime, as it were. Right? It's that quadrant 2 angle that's going to have the same thing. How do we find that value? Just take a look at that diagram. How are you going to get, if I know B, how am I going to get B prime? Something to 180? Yeah, they should both add to 180, right? Because the thing I didn't mark here, right? This angle there in orange, isn't that also B? The reference angle here in quadrant 2 must also be B, because this is the same triangle, right? It's got the same height there. So it's got to have that same internal acute angle. Now we can clearly say, oh, B prime plus B is 180. So I want to solve for B prime. 180 minus B. Huh? So let's go back to here. 180 minus B. To get our other possibility, which should have been 116. Oh, they only rounded to the nearest degree, so we didn't even need the 0.32. Whatever. 64 degrees and 116 degrees. Does that clear up? Oh, you got that, but you got C. Okay, so this splits our timeline here. Okay, we've got two different options. So from this angle B, we need to find, okay, so the sine of 64 degrees over 40 now equals the sine of C over little c. And to get that C, we got to do triangle sum. So 180 minus 50 minus 64. 180 minus 50 is 130. 130 minus 64 is 100 minus 34, down to 70 minus 4, 66. Right? Okay, so now sine of 66. Those are really close. 64 and 66. So I'm betting this is going to be a little bit more than that, right? I'm anticipating like 41, 42, at most. Okay, solve for C. I want to multiply both sides by C. That gets it out of the denominator. And multiply the reciprocal of this. So C is going to be 40. Sine 66 stays on top. Sine 64 stays on the bottom. Did you have that set up? And now we can run back to the calculator. Listen to another ad. 40 sine 66. Close the parenthesis. Then divide your other sign. Okay? Got to close this one. Otherwise you have a sign inside the sign. We're not doing that yet. 40.65. Round up to 41. Or they tell us how many decimals? 40.66. One decimal place from this. It says 47, doesn't it? Is this what you got? You got 40? And it said 47. Why did it say 47? I have no idea. Everything else checks out. I'm going with this. If you got this, you got it right. I don't know where they got 47 from. Did they? What if we used A? What if we used A? A was sine of 50 over 34, because we should be able to go sine 50 over 34 equals sine 66 over C. So then C would be 34 sine 66 over sine 50. Let's try that. That should give us the same answer. 34, 66, 50. 34, 66, close, divide by sine 50. It does. The book's tripping. I have 40.66. Okay, you did it right. Good job. Any other questions? Okay. Anybody need to see that again? If we even trust it now? Okay. Let's do this. We're going to split up into two groups. And as a group, you're going to answer this question on wildlife. It actually has very little to do with the wildlife itself. It's just an excuse for somebody to travel to different locations. Right? Checking out the wildlife. Osprey nesting sites. Okay. So how do you want to divide this up? Front, back, left, right? Boys, girls, what? I don't know. Count them up. Should we randomize it? No picks? You guys can form two groups, can't you? Right? Decide amongst yourselves. How do you want to team up? Everybody must be in a team, and there can only be a total of 2 teams. Ready, go. I guess it turns into boys versus girls. I figured it would happen that way. Okay, the only hint I will give you is that you should probably start with drawing a diagram. Okay. Ooh, hey, let's try this. Freeze that. Now I can draw on here. That shows up there. Okay, so for those of you watching the video later, we'll just skip to the end. Here is the final result for you to check your work. They can't see it yet. I'm sneaky like that. Okay. But that's all we have for today. So we'll shut the YouTube stream off here, because when they're done, they'll just go on to the rest of the homework. What? Are you watching on stream now? Stream snipers.